Hi, I'm Don from DonDronesOn. Recently, the FAA in the US came out with a new mandatory test for recreational drone flyers called TRUST. Naturally, I was curious, so I took the test, and yay, I got 100% on my first pass. So let's take a moment to look at the American TRUST test from a Canadian perspective. Let me begin by saying that the whole structure of the US and Canadian drone regulations are quite different. In Canada, we have two tiers of drone pilot certification. The basic RPAS pilot certification is the entry level and is for low-risk stuff, well away from people and airports. The advanced RPAS pilot certification is for operations in controlled airspace and closer to people. Plus, if you're flying a sub 250 gram drone, you don't need any certification at all. And there are special mechanisms for flying higher risk operations or drones over 25 kilograms. One key element of the Canadian system is that whether you need basic or advanced is entirely based on the risk of the operation and nothing to do with the motivation for the flight. It doesn't matter whether you're flying for fun or for money. The definitions of the kind of operations and the level of certification required are exactly the same. So you can fly commercially with just a basic license, for example. In the US, it's completely different. By default, your operation is considered commercial in nature, and you need what is called a Part 107 certification to fly your drone. If you're flying recreationally, and there are very strict definitions for what that means, there is a special thing, they call it a carve-out, that allows you to fly for fun without meeting the Part 107 requirements. There are 8 simple rules when you are a recreational drone flyer in the US. And this one down here is what we're going to talk about, the new TRUST test. The TRUST test is mandatory for all recreational drone flyers in the US, regardless of age and regardless of the size of drone you're flying. In Canada, you must be at least 14 years old to take the basic drone exam, which is the entry-level test, and it applies only for drones between 250 grams and 25 kilograms. And only Canadian citizens or permanent residents can take the basic exam. But anyone from anywhere can take the American test, even me. The Canadian test requires strict authentication to get in, usually via your banking login. The American test needs you to create an account, but other than your email address, there's no real authentication at all. The US test is free, and as you'll see, is impossible to fail. In fact, you can't even finish until you get all the questions right. The Canadian test, on the other hand, is $10 per attempt and requires a 65% passing grade. Now, both tests are what you'd call open book, although the US test takes it one step further and basically holds the book in front of your face. The TRUST test has 4 modules. Each module starts with a few pages of explanation for a particular topic, and by pages I mean usually just a few lines of text in very plain, easy to understand English. And I learned some stuff along the way, like visual observers in the States. They must stand right beside the drone pilot. In Canada, spotters can be anywhere as long as there is a reliable and timely means of communication to the pilot. Anyways, these few pages of explanation at the beginning of each module include all the answers to the quiz at the end of the module. The module quiz, or knowledge check as they call it, consists of anywhere from 5 to 7 multiple choice questions. There are 23 in total. Each question is either a 3-answer multiple choice or simply true or false. And there's no trick questions. And you're told immediately whether you picked the right or wrong answer. You can even change your answer if you got it wrong the first time. In other words, they want you to understand the concept and get it right. It might seem insanely easy at first, but this is actually an effective way to learn this stuff. By contrast, the Canadian basic exam has 35 questions, each of which is a 4-answer multiple choice. And they never tell you which questions you got right or wrong. They only tell you the number of answers you got right in each of the 8 knowledge areas. And the questions are often worded deliberately to trip you up. This is a remarkable difference in the overall approach. Okay, but what about the questions themselves? Surely any drone exam, Canadian or American, should focus on the rules and where you can fly and other elements of safe drone flight, right? Well, that's exactly what the American test focuses on. The first module it's about the rules for recreational flying, the difference between controlled and uncontrolled airspace, and the simple steps you take to fly near airports. Here's a sample question. What do you have to do to get authorization to fly in controlled airspace? Call local law enforcement, call the nearest control tower, or through Lance or DonDroneOn. Now, they had just talked about Lance and DonDroneOn in the module introduction, and of course that's the right answer. Module 2 goes on to teach you about things like pre-flight checks, what we would call a site survey in Canada, checking airspace, ground hazards, and weather. Module 3 offers safety guidelines like flying in visual line of sight. Here's another question. What should a recreational flyer do to reduce the chance of an accident with another aircraft? Use FPV at all times, contact other aircraft on an aviation radio, or simply avoid distractions and be aware of their surroundings. Yep, the last one is the correct choice. And then the 4th module talks about things to check on your drone before your flight. Nicks in the props and swollen batteries, that kind of stuff. Very practical guidelines and suggestions. The Canadian basic exam topics, well, at the risk of being ever so slightly opinionated, the basic exam questions are absolutely ridiculous. Here are the 8 knowledge areas we're expected to know with the number of questions. As anyone who has taken the test would agree, very few of the questions have anything to do with practical drone operations, and instead cover a broad range of aviation knowledge that has much more to do with understanding manned aircraft operations than to do with a machine that you can carry in one hand. The names of different types of clouds, how runways are numbered, the purpose of ailerons, and everyone's favorite, the causes of hypoxia. It is no surprise that ground school instructors contributed to the Canadian exam question pool, since the main purpose of the exam seems to be to encourage potential drone pilots to take expensive courses from them. The purpose of the trust exam, however, seems bang on the right path, to make it mandatory to learn and understand at least the basics of safe drone flight. No tricks, no nonsense, just a few simple rules, sensible guidelines, and good tools like Lance to keep you out of trouble. Explain it all in plain language that normal, non-aviation people can understand, and do some quick knowledge checks to make sure it's sunk in. Some people have said the trust exam is way too simple. But honestly, from my perspective, it's just about perfect for recreational drone pilots. Simple, practical, and to the point. The Canadian exam, full of absolute nonsense that has nothing to do with flying your drone safely. I hope you found this video interesting and give me a thumbs up down below. I'll be doing a video in the near future digging into more details of how absolutely ludicrous the Canadian drone exams are. Subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to hear about that. Thanks for watching. Safe and happy flying.